Hi, my name is Brian and I'm the High Pop Professor, and today I would like to talk about error cards from the high population wax era, and maybe a little bit beyond. I also would like to talk a little bit about what constitutes an error, what about variants of certain cards, if there were corrected versions of them, and so without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss some error cards from the 90s and the 80s. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. So these three cards that we're going to start out with first, hate to disappoint you, but these are all the regular base versions of these cards, but they do have some famous error variations. So this Randy Johnson rookie card does have a sign in the background that would say Marlboro on it, but has been blacked out, but there are variants with that sign in various degrees of becoming hidden or photoshopped out. This Juan Gonzalez rookie, rated rookie from 90 Donruss, I bought this card on eBay for about $1, and hilariously, I bought the one that was the one pictured in the auction was the reverse negative, and I remember that being a card to look out for, and I bought it, and then the regular one showed up on my doorstep, and I felt weird. I didn't want to leave negative feedback over a $1 card that, but that's what we have. And then this one, of course, the Frank Thomas, this one does, in fact, have his name on the front. It's not a no name on front or even a partial blacklist. And this is a card that in the error variation is probably going to be outside of my price range. What these go for, the error versions are just a little too steep for my blood. But speaking of this 89, of course, the most notorious, infamous error card of all of the junk wax era is going to be our favorite Billy Ripken FF error, and this is the buzzsaw variant, and so you can see there's a little incision made in this. This is the bottom card on a sheet of cards, and when they found the error, they intended to destroy them, and so they ran a buzzsaw through the bottom edge of the sheet where the card was, marking that card for to be destroyed. And so it turns out some of them still got packed out anyway. So how's that for some amazing quality control? And yeah, there's a reason why I said that this video is not for children. All right, well, anyway, let's move along here. Let's replace the big unit with the Billy FF Ripken. All right, moving on. Let's head to some more of the other 90s stuff that we have. Here's a favorite one of mine. This is a card from 95 Leaf Limited. And so Leaf Limited, really cool card. This is a wooden insert called the Lumberjacks, and it has a wooden finish on there, and it's actually made of like real wood, which is a really great card. I love this card. I like all cards with a wooden design. I just think they're just fantastic. And this is an insert that is numbered out of 5,000. Now the back is shiny, even if the front is a matte wooden finish, and they made 5,000 of these. And this specific card is numbered, 5,043 out of 5,000. Huh. Well, that's a problem. It's a little bit reminiscent of current day Panini's quality control. But yeah, this is just kind of a really neat error card. This is not something that was intended, obviously. They goofed up. We'll put it in a little error card top loader here. Okay, and then of course we have a little bit of a debate of what even counts as an error card, and so here's some low-hanging fruit, because there are some cards that simply have variations and variants, and well, where do you fall on this? If it's something like a blank back or reverse negative or wrong back or something like that, clearly that's an error card. But here are two cards from, this is 98 Finest. This is a mystery Finest refractor, and of course Greg Maddox, my man. Now this card, you had the reverse of these cards had all sorts of different players on them. So this one is a Maddox on the right, and then we have Maddox Barry Bonds on the left. And there are other players too. I'd like to get a Maddox Gwynn at some point, because that whole dynamic between Greg Maddox and Tony Gwynn is just legendary. I think Gwynn hit .415 lifetime against Maddox. But anyway, different story. But the reason why I have these here and talking about errors is that as a refractor, what's supposed to happen here is that if you look very carefully at the numbering, it should have an R written for refractor. And both of these are double-sided refractors. And the one with bonds on it has that, but the one with Maddox on both sides is clearly a refractor that does not have that designated R. And so I call this one low-hanging fruit because this particular set was notoriously bad at doing this. And so they did this all the time, and it seemed like it was just sort of arbitrary on whether or not they decided to put the R in there. And so, you know, you had refractors without the R, you had non-refractors with the R. Really, it was just toss a coin, and whatever, you know, whatever came up, that was what they printed on there. Now, that is not actually the case, because anytime a variation like that pops up, I always have to ask myself, well, if there is a difference, if there is one that is actually printed differently with an R or without the R, well, which one is more scarce? Is there one that's more common? And then which one do I have is the other question. And so that's where we get into these other ones. So I want to turn to a different set from the 90s, also one of my very favorite sets. This is 95 Bowman's Best. And so 95 Bowman's Best, here is a beautiful Greg Maddox refractor. And this I'm calling an error variant. Now here's the regular one. Now I will say this regular one, and now both of these cards are pretty badly off-centered. This one is just horrendously off-centered. Look at this one, it's about a 90-10, which sadly was quite typical for this set. This one also exhibits a little bit of the hulking on the face area here. But yeah, this is pretty typical for the set. And you can see on the back, it has the entire word written out as refractor. And if this thing will focus, there we go, we can see it says right there. Get this little hair out of here. Refractor, right there. This card over here is a variation that does not, it says no label error variant. And so if we turn this one around and compare the two, yeah, even though they're both refractors, this one on the bottom does not have that label. It is printed without that word there. And it was intended to. And it's, in my experience, when you look at these cards, it's way, way tougher to find the ones that don't have that word refractor labeled on them. Okay, let me zoom back out again. There we go. So anyway, so I'm keeping these. Now, might I want to pick up one that's a little bit better centered than even this one? Yeah, maybe. This is right around that 60-40 cusp, so I'm fine with it. But if I happen to see a better centered version for a reasonable price, then I might go ahead and pick that up at some point in the future. Okay, and that leaves us with the last error I'd like to discuss for today. Going back to the 80s, we have maybe one of the other most notorious error cards. We have the 87 Donruss Opening Day Barry Bonds error card featuring Johnny Ray pictured. Now, talk about cards. So if an error card was corrected, it's not really that big of a deal because, well, you know, or uncorrected rather. It's not a big deal because all of them have the same mistake, and that's not really anything special. But in this case, they photographed the wrong guy. You know, for the Barry Bonds' card, they pictured Johnny Ray, and they realized their mistake after just a couple left the factory. They made the change, swapped the correct one in with his white home jersey as the regular one, and then, okay, so here we have a couple that slipped out. You have to be very careful with this card. There are a lot of counterfeits that are out there, so be very, very, very careful with this card. In fact, I would like to talk about the counterfeit. I'd like to do a separate video just about that experience. My father is a Barry Bonds super collector and has a number of these cards and has experienced a number of counterfeits as well. And so anyway, this is the 87 Donruss Opening Day. This is in a Beckett 8.5. And this is a very tough card to come across. Very, very, very tough card. And in fact, this card used to be part of my father's collection, which is why I have it now. All right, so thank you for coming along with me once again. And I'm curious, what do you think? Do alternate variations that either say refractor on the back or don't say refractor on the back, are the ones that are incorrect? Are those true error cards? Or if you're a big collector, do you want to get both versions to be complete, to have a complete collection? I understand both versions may not be listed on Trading Card Database, but if you are a completionist, is that something that's important to you? Yeah, that's a good question. Let me know. Yeah, I'm going through the same kind of thing. I have a 95 finest refractor that's at PSA right now, and that also is a variation. It's the one that's actually there is one that does not say refractor on the back, but it should. All right, thank you again for coming by along with me with the card collecting journey. Have a great day, and stop by and visit our channel once again.